The day is bright, the sky stretches out flawlessly. The blue sky burns silently. And the sun sticks straight above my head. The heat is no joke. Wraps around my skin, burns my shoulders. But my steps keep going. Passing narrow embankments, following the lines of dry soil on the side of the rice fields. Sweat drips. Eyes squint to hold back the glare. But behind this heat, there is something I always call them. Small snails hiding under the mud and puddles. My hands never hesitate, even though the ground cracks here and there. Even though the water starts to recede and the smell of mud gets sharper. I squat, and dive my palms into the silence. I don't always find them. But I know they are there. The sound of crickets screeching from between the weeds. Small birds fly low, looking for shade who knows where. And I, still here, alone, with the sun watching it all from above. The mud began to dry on my fingertips. But one by one, I found the snails. I wrapped them in a small smile. And put them in a container that faithfully accompanies my days. The heat became a friend. Not an enemy. Not a burden. Because behind the heat and tiredness, there is something that only I understand. A habit that I can't leave. A routine that has become a second life in me. The days go on. My body's shadow gets shorter. The hot wind rubs my skin. But my heart remains calm. Because I know, in the burning afternoon, in the gaping fields, I always come back, for one thing that never changes. Hunting, scavenge, search, with the sun, and the silence that faithfully embraces me between the mud and the afternoon flame. In the rice fields where the rice is still very small, I walk, slowly, carefully, because here, there is no crowd. There are no snail swarms as usual. Everything looks new, still young, still fragile. The stalks of rice are not yet tall enough to shade their own shadows. The shallow water sparkles under the sun, reflecting my half-worn, half-diligent face. I follow the narrow paths between the rows of rice that are not even a span long. And there, with sharp eyes, and unfading hope, I begin to scratch my gaze into the clear mud. The snails are very small. Sometimes they are almost invisible. Sometimes, only their sticky traces on the bottom of the rice field are a sign that they have passed by. I squat down, silence, bringing my face close to the water's surface, looking for subtle movements, or the tiny pops of young shells that have yet to harden. It's not easy. But that's where the art is. That's where the breath of my routine really comes alive. The mud under my feet begins to sink, and the heat from above begins to mix with the stickiness below. But I don't waver, because every time I find one, a tiny snail that I pick up from the bottom of the mud, it feels like finding treasure in the middle of a silent ocean. They are few, but precious. And maybe because they are hard to find, I am even more captivated, more challenged, more united. This rice field, with its small rice and hidden snails, is a puzzle that I conquer with perseverance, not haste, with eyes that read silence, and a heart that patiently listens to silence. The sky is still hot, the basket is still light, but my steps are not finished. Because today, like other days, I am still here, searching, lurking, counting the seconds between one step and one discovery. Until later, when the sun begins to tilt, and the wind begins to speak softly, then I will go home, with dirty hands, but a full heart. Today isn't as lucky as usual. I've walked far. My body has long been united with the heat and mud. But the results are not much. The snails are hiding somewhere. They don't appear. They don't give a sign. As if they are also avoiding the heat. Hiding deeper in the cracked and murky ground. I look down, staring at the basket that only contains a small handful of the results from the whole afternoon. Not like yesterday. Not like usual. There is a feeling of loneliness that creeps in. Not angry, not hopeless, just empty. But this is life in the rice fields. There are full days. There are days that are hanging. But even though disappointment touched my chest, my steps did not change. I continued to walk along the embankment. I continued to push aside the weeds and puddles. I continued to dive my hands into the mud with the same hope as this morning. Maybe there is still one, maybe there could be more. And even if not, it doesn't matter. Today is not about numbers. Today is about my presence. About my loyalty. About how I am still here, even though nature is silent, even though luck is slowly moving away. The sky began to turn red. The wind felt a little softer. And I, with a light basket, walked home. Not with heavy disappointment, but with a silent promise in my heart: tomorrow I will come again. Because sometimes what is important is not how much is found, but the willingness to keep coming back. To keep searching, to keep believing, that behind the soil, heat, and mud, there is always a new day waiting. Finally, I decided to leave this rice field. My steps lifted slowly, leaving the puddle that didn't give much today. I looked once again at the small stretch of rice field. Still light green, still quiet. Then I took a deep breath, gathering the remaining spirit that had not run out. I will try to go to another rice field. Behind that small hill. Behind the rows of banana trees that dance slowly in the wind. Maybe there, they are waiting. Snails that have not been touched. Have not been disturbed. Have not been found. My steps were not as fast as before. But there was hope that grew again in every step I took. Even though the mud was still sticky on my calves. Even though the sunlight was still burning from above, I kept walking. Because that's how I am. Not stopping when there's little. Not going home when there's not enough. But moving, adapting, dreaming again, that maybe, in another rice field, fate will be a little kinder. The wind blows on my face. Not cool, but enough to make me feel accompanied. And from a distance, I see another expanse of rice fields open wide, welcoming me. I will hunt again, with the same determination, with a basket that is not yet full, but ready to be filled with new hope. Because on this journey, there is never a word in vain. There is only belief. That sustenance sometimes only needs one step further.